are doing everything we can to try to get the NDP Liberals to reverse course on their cruel carbon tax. This week, we are using every tool we can in Parliament to call on the Liberals to spike the hike and axe the tax for good. This motion, I think, is timely and should be a high priority of the Natural Resources Committee, given that 7 out of 10 premiers are calling for the NDP Liberal Costly Coalition to, at the very least, stop their plan to quadruple the carbon tax on all Canadians on April 1st. And, of course, Conservatives would axe the tax for all for good. My motion, this particular motion, does focus on the challenges that Albertans and Alberta families face paying the NDP Liberals carbon tax. But we should note that, of course, Alberta only joins 6 other provinces calling for this change, that to date, the Prime Minister, the Radical Anti-Energy Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, have in turns dismissed, derided, ignored. They have claimed that elected representatives calling to axe the carbon tax or spike the hike are immoral or short-sighted. I would suggest to all members here what is in fact immoral is to know that Canadians, because of the Liberals' tax and spend agenda, their inflationary deficit spending, but mostly and quite directly through the imposition of their Carbon Tax 1 and their Carbon Tax 2. What's immoral is that more Canadians than ever before are forced to go to food banks, and more Canadians than ever before can't afford the essential basics required for daily life in every part of this country, and that these NDP Liberals are willing to ignore those struggles, ignore that pain, ignore that hurt, and impose their agenda, their tax and spend agenda, which is what the carbon tax is, only a cash grab, not an environmental plan. And the proof on that is because, of course, the failed carbon tax has made none of the promised emissions reductions that its proponents asserted. It is not revenue neutral, and the vast majority of Canadians pay more into the carbon tax than they ever have a hope in getting back from this government's carbon tax rebate scheme and scam. So to that end, my motion is such that, given that, one, Alberta is one of 7 provinces that oppose the Prime Minister's 23% carbon tax increase on April 1st, 2024, and 2, that the Prime Minister's carbon tax will cost Alberta families over $2,700 per year once the NDP Liberals quadruple the carbon tax, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer. I think it's high time that our committee, and this is my ask in my motion, call on the Liberal government to immediately cancel the 23% carbon tax increase on April 1st, 2024, and that this motion be reported to the House. I just want to read the comments, among many, of recently made by the Premier of Alberta. Quote, I'm joining my provincial counterparts in writing to reiterate our concerns that Albertans and Canadians have faced incredible pressures due to crippling inflation and high interest rates. That's why, on behalf of Albertans, I urge you to scrap the punitive carbon tax. If your government is unwilling to listen to the millions of Canadians calling for this, we're insisting you provide a uniform exemption on all forms of home heating, including natural gas, for all provinces. And of course, her comments back up and align with the words of the PC Premier of Nova Scotia and the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador. Premier Houston of Nova Scotia has said, quote, on April 1st, Nova Scotians fueling their cars will pay 3.3 cents more per litre in carbon tax at the pumps, meaning Nova Scotians will pay a total of 17.6 cents in carbon tax on every litre of gas they buy. This is unfair and misguided, isn't he right? The last thing Nova Scotians and Canadians need right now is more tax. The cost of living is top of mind for people as we experience some of the highest increases in inflation in 30 years. The number one ask by Nova Scotians, Premier Houston says, is in this year's provincial budget consultation was for tax relief. And rather than imposing a punishing carbon tax that will hurt Nova Scotians Premier Houston says, I am asking that you cancel the carbon tax before any more financial damage is done and work with us to focus on the most beneficial path for the environment. That would mean a more self-reliant and cheaper path for Nova Scotia. And of course, that's those same concerns, that same advocacy for the escalating struggles that everyday Canadians face in every province and territory of this country is echoed by the Liberal Premier Fury of Newfoundland and Labrador. He said, quote, workers and families in Newfoundland and Labrador throughout the country and indeed around the globe continue to face the most significant cost of living crisis in a generation. For the past 2 years now, Canadians have endured persistent and punishing inflation, coupled with the most aggressive upward interest rate trajectory in the history of the Bank of Canada. The coming almost 23% increase in the federal carbon tax on April 1st is causing understandable worry as people consider how they will manage the mounting financial strain. I respectfully request that you consider pausing the implementation of the April 1st carbon tax increase. He says at least until inflation stabilizes, interest rates lower, and related economic pressures on the cost of living sufficiently cool. So that's just a selection of comments coming from the premiers who are advocating on behalf of the people that they represent, which are also all the same people that we represent. And so knowing without a shadow of a doubt the vast majority of Canadians cannot afford the carbon tax as it is, never mind actually be able to figure out where in the heck they're going to get any more money to pay a quadrupling of this carbon tax on April 1st, skyrocketing even more in less than 6 years from now. That is what is immoral. That is what is short-sighted. That is what is repugnant. That is unacceptable. It's reprehensible. And so it would be a very so I hope that committee members will welcome this opportunity to demonstrate to the people who elected them that you will fight for their cost of living, fight for their livelihoods, fight for them to have more affordable lives, and actually listen to, after 9 years, Canadian after Canadian after Canadian, elected representative after elected representative saying this is the wrong course. The carbon tax is a cash grab. It's not an environmental plan. Canadians cannot afford it, and the carbon tax is not worth the cost. So I do hope that all members will support this motion today. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Stubbs. Now we'll go to our identified speaking order here. We'll go to Mr. Aldag. Go ahead, Mr. Aldag.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say what I find repugnant and reprehensible is the continued obstruction that we see from our Conservative colleagues in trying to move forward this piece of legislation. We've heard from Newfoundland, Labrador, and Nova Scotia that the provinces are waiting for us to get this work done. We had a discussion at the beginning of the meeting about taking time away from the work of this committee to pay tributes to the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Mulroney, and yet we can go on these filibusters and going on about motions to disrupt the work of the committee. So I just find this is another attempt at obstructing the work that this committee needs to do, particularly on this piece of legislation, and therefore I move to adjourn debate on this motion.
Mr. Clerk, to adjourn debate. If you could call the roll. Mr. Aldag.
Yes.
Ms. Dillon.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Madame Lapointe.
Oui.
Mr. Sorbera.
Yes.
Mr. Falk.
No.
Mr. Patzer.
No.
Mr. Small.
No.
Ms. Stubbs.
No.
Mr. Simard.
Oui.
Mr. Angus.
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays. That carries. Debate is adjourned. We'll now go back to where we were on CPC 9. Ms. Stubbs, you were going to move CPC 9, I believe?
Yeah. Oh. Thank you, Chair. Yes, that Bill C-49 in Clause 111 be amended by replacing line 26 on page 85 with the following, or 45.7, section 67, subsection 72, section 98.2.
Okay, thank you. CPC 9, shall CPC 9 carry?
Yes.
No.
Okay, please call the roll, please.
Mr. Aldag.
No.
Ms. Dillon.
No.
Ms. Jones.
No.
Madame Lapointe.
No.
Mr. Sorbera.
Nope.
Mr. Falk.
Yes.
Mr. Patzer.
Yes.
Mr. Small.
Yes.
Ms. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mr. Simard.
No.
Mr. Angus.
Yes.
CPC
5
9.
yeas, 6 nays.
That is defeated. CPC 9 is defeated. So we'll now go to shall clause 111 carry? Please call the roll.
Mr. Aldig,
Yes.
Ms. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Madame Lapointe,
Oui.
Mr. Cervera,
Yes.
Mr. Falk, Mr. Patzer,
Sure.
Mr. Small,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Stubbs,
Yes.
Mr. Simard,
No.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Clause 111 carries. There are no amendments submitted to clauses 112 to 114. Do we have unanimous consent to group them together for the vote? Yes, please call the vote, please, for clauses 112 to 114. Go ahead, call the roll.
Mr. Aldig,
Yes.
Ms. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Madame Lapointe,
Oui.
Mr. Cervera,
We.
Mr. Falk,
Yep.
Mr. Patzer,
Yeah.
Mr. Small,
Yes.
Ms. Stubbs,
Yes.
Mr. Simard,
No.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Clauses 112 to 114 carry. So we have a new clause 114.1, and we'll proceed to BQ 19. Monsieur Samard, would you like to move that? BQ 19.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Like BQ 19 to 26 have not figured in the first part of the bill, I would gather that they will not figure in the second part of the bill. So I would move B19 to BQ 26.
Merci, Monsieur Samard.
Thank you, Mr. Simard.
We'll now proceed to,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
which numbers again?
just for Mr. Patzer and colleagues around the table, Monsieur Samard has said that he is not going to be moving BQ 19 to BQ 26. BQ 19 to 26.
BQ 19 to BQ 26.
Very good. Okay, we'll now go to clause 115. Shall clause 115 carry? Please call the roll.
Mr. Aldig,
Yes.
Ms. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Madame Lapointe,
Oui.
Mr. Cervera,
Yes, please.
Mr. Falk,
Yep.
Mr. Patzer,
Yep.
Mr. Small,
Yes.
Ms. Stubbs,
Yes.
Mr. Simard,
No.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Clause 115 carries. Shall clause 116 carry? Please call the roll.
Mr. Aldig,
Yes.
Ms. Dillon,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Madame Lapointe,
Oui.
Mr. Cervera,
We.
Mr. Falk,
Yes.
Mr. Patzer,
Yes.
Mr. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce, Ms. Stubbs,
Yes.
Mr. Simard,
No.
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, clause 116 carries. We'll now go to clause 117. Shall clause 117 carry?
Able to propose any grouping of, now that there are no amendments to a number of these?
We have, okay, shall clause 117 to clause 122 carry? Yes, please call the roll.
Mr. Aldig,
Yes.
Ms. Dillon, Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Madame Lapointe,
Oui.
Mr. Sabara.